Kia ora koutou, Mark Larson, CEO for the Association of Integrated Schools, doing my very last newsletter after 15 years in the role. Very special for me, and here we go. Firstly, we are delighted to introduce our new CEO, Nicola Goose. You've had some information via your email on Nicola, and here's a little interview I did with her just recently that gives you a little bit more insight into her style of leadership, what she's looking at in the first months of taking up the role, and how you can support her. So go and have a quick look at that, would be awesome. Secondly, I was at a proprietor function recently and challenged somewhat by a comment by a retiring proprietor who had done 40 years as a proprietor on one of our member schools. Politicians decided in the 1870s that education in New Zealand should be free, compulsory, and secular. This proprietor reflected and said, yes, however, there are challenges with that and some angles that we need to consider in the state integrated school sector. Education in a state integrated school is not free, and parents having to pay somehow raises the stakes and improves that relationship of parent support working with the school. Compulsory, yes, but anything that becomes a right is difficult to manage in terms of a sense of entitlement and apathy. And thirdly, secular, yes, in the sense of non-sectarian. But of course, our state integrated schools, many of them have a faith base. Interesting thoughts, isn't it, from an outgoing proprietor? And wow, 40 years as a proprietor trustee. Amazing. I came across this piece from the Maxim Institute recently. You can click on the button there and hear Tim Wilson interview Dr. Paul Henderson around issues for educationalists with the development of artificial intelligence. I commend it to you. One or two changes at the Ministry of Education. Philippa Pidd, who many of you know through our conferences, has been seconded to the Charter School Agency. Nash Anand, who has delivered some of our workshops and deals with attendance dues and other finance matters, is retiring and being replaced by Chad Britton. We continue to really appreciate our national head office team, Vanessa Harold, Sarah Taylor and Brian Mitchell, and continue to work with them in 2025. You can jump in there and have a look at the latest APIS newsletter if you have not seen it. Also a reminder that communications from APIS recently around notional lease costs and the Policy 1 funding for 2025. The videos on integration have been completed, and you can jump on that link and have a look at 4 videos now. I've recommended them to you in the past. Great professional development if you're a proprietor trustee, a principal, or a presiding member of a school board. They are easily adapted for use in your meetings, and Kevin Shaw advises that he's keen to create a 5th video, perhaps next year, picking up the non-Catholic voice in particular. This was in our last newsletter, and there just to jog your memory to keep up to date with this information. Similarly, in our last newsletter, we advised of new guidelines for proprietors operating leases rather than an ownership model, and early in the new year, we hope to promulgate some advice around the sort of lease that is likely to get ministry support. I mentioned this in our Term 3 newsletter. If you're a presiding member, you need to be thinking about board elections next year. If there's a casual vacancy on your board, we suggest you don't fill that until election time, unless you're particularly keen. It's quite an onerous process. Promote trusteeship, board membership to your school community. Your board needs to reappoint your presiding member at the start of next year. And then, of course, again after the elections. Proprietors often use board elections as a time to review their appointees to the board. And of course, we can help you with new member induction if you're looking for support. I mentioned the New Zealand Boarding School Association, and one of our member schools employs Kelly Ives, and she's very keen to hear from any members who have boarding school but specific issues. We continue to talk to the Charter School Agency about the possibility of a state integrated school converting to being a charter school, and also for proprietors thinking about starting new schools. We'll keep you updated with information as it comes to hand. We've advised in the past that our plan in 2025 is to move to a webinar-based approach. Here are our resources on our website. They are easily downloadable. Since I last spoke to you in our Term 3 newsletter, we've uploaded a webinar completed by myself, reflecting what I did in the workshop at Conference on Diversity and Inclusion. You can jump on that button there and have a look at that from these slides. We thanked APIS for their administration of EPMP over the last 2 to 3 years, and while money from the ministry has come into their bank and before it's distributed to proprietors, it earns interest, and APIS in their generosity have agreed to pay some of that interest accrued across to AIS. It's a significant amount of money. It will help our budget, and we're very grateful. Thank you so much. Our endorsed advisor program is on ice while our new CEO gets her feet under the table and works with executive to look at the future of that. So for Term 1, our advisor program is on hold, but we will keep you up to date with how that develops. I'll be floating around in 2025 as a consultant if schools want to contact me through AIS for help. Very open to that if I can fit it in around my impending retirement. Our work with the ministers continues, and we have a meeting next week with the minister in Wellington, and we are hoping to hear of more news around some of our advocacy to her. Conference dates in 2025, 11th and 12th of September. There's our executive meeting dates. Thank you again to our wonderful sponsors. We really appreciate you. You've made all the difference to us this year, and I hope you've engaged well with our members. And in closing, if you're old enough to remember Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett, I go out on this note, click on that button, and you'll see it's good night from me, and it's good night from him. It's not good night from Rhonda. She'll be back with you next year. It's been an honour, a privilege, and a joy. Ka kite anō.